Terry Tilton, do we know what, Terry, I'm sorry, thank you, Terry. I know I see you stand up and hiring weather, but I just, you think, are all your guys here, you know? I just want to make sure we all made it from the other meeting. Because, one thing I'll go ahead and say.
Rich Bowman.
Is that this will likely be the only time our entire group will be together. And so, because we obviously got a lot of other things to do, and we don't intend to tie up your time with administrative stuff, you know? Yeah. And so, that's why I want to make sure kind of we're all here. Alan is figuring out our stuff. And so, just to remind you, in the goodie packet, you will have the neckerchief.
Tommy Watts.
You'll have a hat. Well, some of you who came back later with that. So
Jim Baker.
You'll have 4 chaplain patches. You'll have a chaplain backpack. And
Mark Ellison.
those were provided by and if you purchased ordered a hat ahead of time and got it ahead of time, you had the option, the broadband hat, the baseball cap. And I'll just tell you that was provided by the grace and generosity of a former chaplain here at the summit, at Jamboree. Jamborees, and he just wanted to make sure that knowing that most of us are poor preacher guys, I'm not that way. I vocationally I did other work.
Alan.
But know how hard it can be for clergy, and we wanted everybody to have these resources without worrying about having to pay just for something else. Because we know how that happens as you get ready.
Adam Gonzalez.
Particularly anytime we're scouting in there, we basically pay to work, you know. We pay to work. So let me let Alan finish giving those out. I will tell you, don't worry about putting on the Jamboree chaplain neckerchief at this moment. We're going to do that at the end of this meeting. And do it in a special way. So I just want you to kind of know that that's coming up here in just a second as we get everybody in here. Again, I am Ted Spangenberg. This is my 3rd Jamboree to serve as a chaplain. I have also served in sub-camp leadership roles, served sub-camp chief 2 or 3 times. I think overall, somebody made me count the other day. This is my 13th national Jamboree and a couple of 3 world Jamborees. But only to say that I'm about worn out. And so that's why we try to recruit some young guys here, so that we can make sure that this wonderful legacy of chaplain can keep going. In fact, one of the things that somebody brought to me, another friend whom I have served in the past, here's a Jamboree chaplain's manual from 1985. 75th anniversary of scouting. And so scouting we've had chaplains a long time. And we've built great service over the years, and now you have the opportunity to be part of that service. How many other of you, this is your first time serving as a Jamboree chaplain? Hey, thank you. Half the room. So you have a special obligation. You're not embedded in our old traditions, and that's actually a wonderful thing. And so feel free to say, well,
Senate.
Why are we doing it that way? Why not this way? Please, you are welcome to do that and ask those questions, and let's help make our ministry better in everything that we do. You have my full permission to do that. In fact, an expectation. Also in that packet, and I didn't check for that in mind. If you ahead of time ordered a hat, you should have a stipend in there to reimburse you for I think $16 in hat cost. Again, because we want you to be equipped without having to worry about that. And that particular benefactor, and he wants to remain anonymous. That particular benefactor wanted to make sure that you were equipped. So I want to go ahead and introduce a couple of other folks while Alan continues to do that. The summit obviously is a high adventure camp, one of our 4 high adventure bases in Boy Scouts of America. Obviously, it's supposed to be assigned this year in the summertime. That activity was suspended, obviously, during the Jamboree time. But just like we have a well recognized and well-oiled chaplain machine that's operating at Philmont right now, there's also a chaplaincy program here at the Summit. And we have Summit has a resident chaplain. He will be helping us and serving as part of our team, part of the leadership in our team this week. Greg, would you stand up and wave everybody? You can't.
So you know, it's more than high vision, we call it summer experience. So we have camp, we have prayers, we have family camp, all those programs. All that. And just to let you know, the benefactor that Ted is talking about is the reason why there's chaplaincy in this summit.
Don Fisher.
He's making sure it's happening, it's actually for sure it's gonna happen in the next 3 years.
Yes.
And one other thing is, and you go through bills, I do have a bid. But there's something, I can't be a taxi driver, but if there's some need to help you accomplish your faculty goals and you can, I can be available. It's fine. That's what's going on. So we do have that vehicle is here to be used, except I have to be.
Keith Hudson.
And we'll make sure, there's a couple of transportation resources we'll talk about just a minute. Greg has been very gracious in terms of making sure that his resources and his knowledge of the summit location and everything that's here at the summer can be quite invaluable to us while we are here. So we'll talk about a couple other ways in which he's going to be of help to us. So that's Greg. You met Alan. Hopefully, I don't know if we actually formally introduced Patrick. Bradley, Patrick, would you wave your hand or something? He is my aide. Every leader at the Jamboree of some type is encouraged to have an aide who is a good bit younger than they are. And so I achieved that goal with Patrick. He's almost 50 years my younger. Not quite, but close to it. Patrick is a seminarian and is here with us to help in any way we can. But we're pleased to have him and a couple of the young faces around the room. And so, particularly for if you have an interesting experience, something you're going to deal with, be helping with, or working with, and you think that'd be a good experience for Patrick, or you know that you've got let's say a Scoutmaster 1 or 2 says, hey, I've got one patrol that's just totally dysfunctional. I beat myself over the head trying to get things straightened out and worked out. It's starting to affect the morale of the entire crew. Chaplain, would you come talk to him? And you say, yes, it sounds like a young person situation. I wonder if I get Patrick to come help me listen and hear young people first. And so he'd be on hand to do that. I'm reminded, I'll try not to get too distracted with something, but I'm reminded of a 2-year-old boy, a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old, and their mother was having some significant issues for them. And she was a single parent, a mom, no father at home. And so she finally, out of desperation, she asked the pastor of her church, Pastor, would you talk about 2 boys? I'm just having a terrible time with them. I can't, I got a real talent for them. He said, could you help them understand that God is everywhere and that God knows what they're doing and God knows what's going on? And said, well, Pastor said, yeah, bring them on down and I'll try. And so she brought them on down there and prior to our youth protection time, but he was pastor of the local church. The 6-year-old, they asked him to sit out in the hall just a moment, and Mama was waiting out in the car, and the 8-year-old went on in to see the pastor in his pastor study. And the pastor looked over at the young man and said, sir, Charlie says, you know where God is? And of course, Charlie was kind of nervous. First time he ever been in the pastor's office. He didn't kind of know what to say. He just kind of sat there getting a little more and more nervous. And he said, Charlie, I said, do you know where God is? And Charlie gets a little more nervous. And he says, Charlie, I'm going to ask one more time. Do you know where God is? At that point, Charlie jumps up out of his seat, runs out in the hall, grabs his little brother, says, come on, Joe, let's get out of here. God's missing and they think we took him. So anyway, it helps to have a young detective about things, and he would be available to them. Also, another key aspect of, I hate to call it a leadership team, but if your headquarters team, we're here to support you. It's Jeff Thompson. I know Jeff Thompson. Jeff Thompson is our coordinator. We'll talk about medical in just a moment. But Jeff Thompson is our coordinator with the external hospital. Regrettably, every Jamboree, we have folks that have to go to the big hospital in pain. And there are chaplains there, but they don't always have scout speak. And they don't, and obviously we're the ones, they're our kids, they're our scouts from our Jamboree, and they're up there laid up in that car. And we want to help make sure their needs are taken care of. And so Jeff does a marvelous job. This is the third, fourth chairman doing that. He's got a great demeanor for that. He's a professional, he's a hospital chaplain. I finally retired. Is that right? Didn't you retire? Okay. Yeah, sort of. And so he does that. And so just know that it may be that if we find out a kid from your sub camp or an adult is being transported is at internal hospital, make sure Jeff knows. You can check on him. He'll generally already know, or if it's time to bring that kid home. And some medical is very good about getting our chaps to the hospital. Sometimes we have to help get them back when they're released. And sometimes he may need somebody to ride with him or use protection to get that scout back. And if you're the chaplain in that sub camp, you may be called upon to do that if you're available. If not, another role in which Patrick can step in and help. And so you'll help each other out in terms of those one-on-one situations. But I want y'all to make sure y'all met Jeff. And I want to publicly thank him for doing that all these years. He knows the chaplain that he's at that hospital that he's really working with. So I wanted you to kind of get a sense of that. You know, obviously Alan's our key admin guy. I know one chaplain already has a need for some things they want to print out. Robbie, print a few things out, so he's gonna get them out, and I can do that. Now we can't print out reams of stuff, but if you have something you need, particularly if you come across a list of scout by faith group in your sub camps, and you need some little further information on that. Alan's marvelous in doing that stuff and knows how to do it. He's very good at it. Whereas I'm more the out walking around kind of guy. I want to be out there to encourage you, and so you can encourage me. Every time I see you all there at work, I get encouraged. Do free, and since I mentioned those particularly, you know, as I said there, we have a lot of different faith groups represented. And if you run into a challenge in your subcamp that you think may be unique to that person's faith group, you know, find out what it is, faith background. If they are really struggling with why would a good God let my grandma die? You just got another component. And you may be the one that, by the way, hearing that information. Well, it depends on his faith background. That might be something that could be answered better from a faith background, faith specific background. But you know, you're a Jewish chaplain. You don't know what Episcopals thought about that. You might, but you might not. And so, yeah, we find out one of our Episcopal buddies and call on them. Call in some help. There's nothing wrong with calling in a little help on some of this stuff. Okay, we're dealing with sensitive situations with topics. Okay? Feel free to get help where you think you might need it. But I want you to meet those headphones guys. I'd now like to introduce. I'm going to introduce each of our base camp chaplain coordinators, and then just real quickly, I want you to have seen the name. If you've seen the Jamboree, you've seen some faces to go with it, but some of you haven't seen all that. And so let's start with Alpha Bravo. Remember that Alpha Bravo does not have unit contingents camping there, but they have a lot of staff camping there. So we don't have as many chaplains there per sub camp, but they got a different type of role, and their scheduling their day may be a little different than ours because of that. But our base camp coordinator over at Alpha Bravo is Father Joe. Father Joe, would you like to take the opportunity to introduce your sub camp chaplain?
Yeah, right here.
I tell you, would you want to go ahead and introduce your sub camp chaplains from Alpha Bravo? Or get them to self-introduce. I don't care. Alpha Bravo.
Lisa. And Derek. Hey, it's your learning name.
We all are. That's how I want us to say it.
Pleasure. No black here. Peter.
Jess could not be here to say. In fact, let me put Joe Black and Jess Speaker are special. You'll see that little ADJ beside their name. That doesn't mean that they're just adjacent to somebody else. That's adjunct. That's a big fancy word to say this is not their primary job. They have a daytime job. They have an 8 to 4, 8 to 5 program job. If they're qualified as a chaplain, they're fortunate as a chaplain. They have a chaplain's farm because they stepped up and said, "I'm available. Can you use me in the evenings?" And I thought, man, in the Echo camp, the Alpha Bravo camp, are already camp living. Absolutely, we can, because that's when those staff members are back out from their duties, and we don't know what kind of day they had. And so, Joe and Jess speaker, and Jess apologized he could not be here today. He had to be on duty, take the primary job today. But I want to thank Joe in public for doing that. And as y'all see Jess over there, thank him for doing that role. So that's Alpha Bravo. And again, we've got Catherine Elliott represented over there, and and Evangelical represented over there. Charlie Base Camp, right here, thank you.
Yeah, I'm David Clark, I'm the base camp coordinator, and we've got four. So in Charlie 1, we've got Jay Giggins. Jay is the right, didn't you? Jay had an experience where he's heading to Charleston, West Virginia, but his luggage went to Charleston, South Carolina. Yes.
That was.
Don Fisher.
Oh, it's Don Fisher. Oh, I thought it was you. So Don's still in here.
I think he's still tracking his luggage down.
Okay, easy on.
Yeah.
Well, whatever. Somebody missed
But
it.
Jay did just get here. Yeah.
Well, we're glad you're here, Jake. Okay, and I got Chuck Forsythe, and Chuck's here, and Don, we're still waiting. But I need to see you two guys afterwards to bring you up to date. Okay, good deal. And Charlie 2, we got Rick Bowman and Avi Hoffman and Tom Watts. So you guys want to just wave or whatever, so we know who you are. There we go. All right, good deal. In 3, I got Tim Baker, Mark Ellison, and another guy, Rick May, will be coming to the second session. And then in 4, we've got Tom Andrew and Alan Berkey and Gonzalez. They're racing all the way over there. So, thank you guys very much. And I'll give it to you. And I also have a second with the base camp, and it's Nathan Williams, and he just got here. He's going to be here after time, and then he's off to be a chaplain at the World Jamboree. So he's into it. So thank you, Ted.
And yes, thank you to Nathan for stepping in to do this, because he knew he had this World Jamboree obligation, but I said, Nathan, can you come on and still help us out a little bit? And he was quite willing to do that, and so we appreciate his role and him being here, and him recruiting several 200 of you from his faith group to come and help with this. And then we have Terry and Rabbi Hart from Delta. Terry, gonna do the introduction? Okay, great.
Terry Gilbert, glad to be here. Rabbi Hart is right here. Well, this is I guess been in the Jamboree for a few years, but he's working pretty hard with the Jewish faith. I'm going to invite the Delta chaplain to stand if you're with us. First Tom. Right there. And Gerald Gentleman is not here. He's in the second session. Charles Jewell.
You don't go at Charles or by Chuck? Chuck, okay, I want to make sure. I'm liable to call you anything.
That's okay, I'll answer.
And each Robert Clay.
And Robert does go by Bob. Did we miss him? We'll find out what happened.
John Partridge. And Aaron Stockwell. We'll be here in the first section. There we go. And from D3, Hildy Bullrod. Benjamin Nevin. And Ray Turner is here. Right? And Vern Wright will be coming in the second section. D4, Sarah. And Greg Simon. And Scott Thayer. Been with us for a few. That's the crew.
Very good, thank you. And as you didn't pick it up from all of those, but I mean, we've got chaplains here from all over the country, and thank you for that, for our geographical diversity. I've already mentioned our faith background diversity, and but what a wonderful opportunity as serving as chaplain to get to better know faith perspectives of other faith groups. And you have that opportunity to grow in your knowledge and resources as a chaplain. Aaron Stockwell is here. If you don't know a lot about Unitarian Universalism, which is frankly not one of the more common things, not one I'm very familiar with, what a great chance to talk to him. So, talk to me about, how your faith perspectives might be different from mine. if you never talked to an Orthodox Jewish, rabbi, or almost rabbi, right? Well, we talked to Robbie. He goes by Avi or Rabbi Avi or Robbie. Any of those. If you've never met a Seventh-day Baptist, have you ever talked to a Seventh-day Baptist? Just one, because they're pretty rare. There's two of you have. Well, when Vern gets here the second half, talk to him. I mean, he's an interesting guy. Any of us would love to share with you. So it's an opportunity for you to learn about different faith perspectives, because the more you know about those different faith perspectives, the better you can serve, not only here at this Jamboree, but in future events that you serve at a chaplain with us at your summer resident summer camp or any other opportunity. Yes.
We do have one more area that's housed, and it is the summit stack. They've been here a lot of weeks, and you'll see going around. We all have to wear the blueberries. That's why I'm in a blueberry shirt. It's my uniform while I'm here at the summit. I've had mine monograph Chaplain because we all look the same. But there are a lot of young people who are helping with the Jamboree, and they're up at Foxtrot. And so I work with the management team and so forth as their chaplain as well. But anyway, just let you know, we see young people running around. Some, not all of us, but most are young people. Blueberries, they are the summit staff. We're all employees of the summit. So just want to let you know, next box.
And so that's one of Greg's additional special duties, is that if one of them has a chaplaincy issue, then he is their first point of contact for the summit staff that are literally still here working after their high adventure time.
You're going to see people run around with blueberries. That's who they are. They're summit staff.
And so they want to talk about Jamboree structure, but then you're starting to get a sense of that. There's a summit staff. There is a Jamboree service team housed at A and B, and then all the contingent units are located in Charlie and Delta. But even this part is different than prior Jamborees. For the first time, we have female units. We've had female attendees, but not specific female Scout PSA units here before. We also traditionally, those who've been former Jamboree, you had a troop site. It was a troop. It was a contingent troop from their council. And they might have picked up one or two overflows from a neighboring council to make sure everybody got to go. But this time, you may have, particularly in female sites, you may have a troop of 40, 30 some kids there. Well, in that case, maybe 32 kids laid add on. But guess what? One patrol of them is actually a unit from one council. Another patrol is a unit from another council. You might have 4 distinct units on that site. Or you might have 3 patrols from one council and another patrol from another council. And those are 2 different units. And they operate, they're 2 different units, even though they may cook together or do some other things together. And that's important when we get to talk about chaplain aides in just a moment. We'll talk about them. So obviously the Jamboree is structured in terms of a very sub-camp, base camp. You've seen in your sub-camp what the sub-camp does for those units to handle their logistics, a lot of commission service is so important to them. But you also have been seeing how we're trying to be here to help support y'all in that. Are there any questions about the Jamboree structure or how we are kind of trying to orchestrate ourselves the best we can from the chaplaincy standpoint? Good. All right. You know the site. You've seen the map. Some of you have had to get here from Alpha Bravo, so it's kind of immersed. You'll have your what we call our Jambo legs before long. I will say it is much more condensed than we were at Fort AP Hill, but we're going to live in the past. But we're more up and down in what we do here. And so, yeah, you get your Jambo legs about here, and there's plenty of opportunities to kind of see what's going on as part of that.
Let me pause it for just a moment.
Yeah.
Standing in the green scrubs at the door is Mike Farmer. He's the chief of staff for the medical operation. And thank you for you and your team hosting us over here today.
Well, thank you for being here. We greatly appreciate it. And like all of you, I just wanted to know that Alan put you all in for a raise.
I heard it's going to be in the neighborhood of 20 to 25%. What I heard.
I don't think we can afford it.
Another zero.
These services are greatly appreciated, and even more so, you know what we've been through in our organization, the transitions that are all out there right now. Services are greatly valued. Thank you for being here.
Perfect. Thank you. But speaking about getting around, let's talk about transport just a moment. We had a classic case of that today that I was not up on as quick as I should be, but the very reason that we are spread out and the very reason that some camps have much more limited vehicles than they have had in the past. The Jamboree has much fewer vehicles than they have had in the past, even after you factor in a smaller size this time, is why in each base camp, we have a chaplain, and typically it's the chaplain coordinator who has what's called a POV. You hear that term, it's basically a privately operated vehicle. It is authorized to travel in the Jamboree site for Jamboree business, not your taxi driver taking the trading boats. Although if you need to make a run from one spot to the other, I told Father Joe, hey, before y'all head back, if y'all want to stop at the Summit Center for trading boats, you might as well do it. You got to go right by it anyway, okay? But we have some of those privately operated vehicles that are there for Jamboree business. And so if you're over in trying to think of a good example, if you're over in Charlie and we find out and you're from a specific faith group and they have a need for you over at Alpha Bravo, well, get up with David and let's see what we can do in terms of a POV. If he can't handle his, Alan has a POV. And so some cases, we've got Greg's vehicle as part of the Summit Transportation Motor Pool. His vehicle has been used. Our chaplain truck here at the Summit. So reach out for help so that you obviously we can be more effective at meeting those needs if we can help transport you to a spot. If you've got a load of stuff we need to carry to somebody, hopefully that's taken care of. But you know, if somebody has a box coming in with something, we need to get it, or you've got a big box of stuff that needs to get to your faith group exhibit over at the program area, let us know. And so, again, we don't plan to have any total group meetings again. But if there's a need, those resources will be there. We won't be practical in all that we do. And as part of all we do, let's quickly talk about, I know you're getting tired of me, but let's quickly talk about Jamboree duty, chaplaincy duty. So just a quick remembrance. And that is your principal job is to minister to those needs in your subcamp, regardless of the faith perspective, faith background of the first person that presents it. If you come upon a need, you discover a need in talking to an adult leader, or you see a challenge that seems that one of your fellow subcamp staff members is having an emotional or spiritual challenge, or sometimes got to talk to them, mental challenge, that you're there to help minister the needs as best you can. That's your number one priority, particularly as you make those rounds with commissioners or otherwise try to visit with unit leaders, find out if there's issues. That's your opportunity to minister and serve. Secondly, one of the things you want to do is, we just talked about the medical support. Now it's interesting because the different locations of things, Delta does not have its own separate medical clinic. We thought it was going to, but because Jambo General is so close, Delta will then use this as their base camp medical facility. They use the General Delta. And so Terry and his group, and Greg's going to help us cover the kind of the medical on-duty chaplain needs for this facility right here. And Greg's going to help with that. Terry will pitch in and help with that. Alan and I can help with that. But there is a separate medical clinic at Charlie Base Camp. There's a separate medical clinic at Alpha Bravo. And not typically would be as busy as the ones here. First off, they'll have 2 subcamps, and hopefully with the older folks that are over there, they'll have maybe a better enough sense not to get hurt and keep hydrated and stuff like that. I know that's amazing. But the point is, particularly for you folks in Charlie, if you need help back up, let us know. But the medical clinic there, particularly talk to the head nurse. She's the best one. He or she's the best one to talk to. They need to know who's a chaplain on call. That chaplain on call needs to maybe visit there once or twice that day, make sure their phone number is written on their whiteboard at their entry time. So if somebody presents, a kid or an adult presents, and it may appear to be a medical issue, a physical issue, but turns out it may also be an emotional issue, which we can help. They need to pick up the phone and call. It doesn't mean you have to be sitting there at the medical clinic all the time, 24 hours, during that shift schedule, whatever we've got. But you need to be available. So yeah, when you go to bed that night, if you're the guy, you're the chaplain on duty for your medical facility, show me your name and phone number written on their whiteboard. And it's up to y'all to manage that and schedule that amongst yourselves there. And then that way, if they have somebody in the middle of the night that might be the chaplain, or it may even be, you may want to do the same thing, frankly, with your sub-camp chief or chief of staff to know who's the chaplain on duty for the day or the night. You may have a call that comes in to a scoutmaster saying, hey, little Johnny's mother and father were both, just both in a terrible car accident. They've been hospitalized, not expected to survive. Now here's this scoutmaster having to deliver that news. If he's smart, he'll call a chaplain to be there with him, because that's going to affect that scoutmaster deliver the news. It's going to affect that young scout as they deliver that. But that scoutmaster will be contacting the sub-camp if he doesn't already know y'all. They'll need to know, somebody needs to know how to get to you who can help do that night. And so keep your names posted on your tent. That's the kind of thing where they might call you, they may come tapping and say, hey, can somebody have, Chris, Chaplain Chris, can you come help us with this? And so hopefully you know how to do those types of things. If you run into one of those very sensitive situations that you're not comfortable with, call on your fellow sub-camp chaplains. And if none of y'all come to that, call on your base camp coordinator. And if you're not comfortable with that, call me and I'll go sit down,
Actually, if it's on this side, I'll send Ted. He'll be closer.
So, anyway, let's help each other out. For just be this fact that they be several, and so people in your subcamp can serve them well and serve them better. So they've got to kind of know who to call in those after hours situations. Again, it doesn't mean you're sitting up all night waiting on a call. You go to bed, get your rest, but don't be surprised if you're the guy on duty. Don't be surprised if your phone rings and you have that need. I pray that you will not have that need, but it has occurred. It has occurred. I've had to deliver a message like that in my past time.
I'm in D4, so this is kind of beyond my wheelhouse, but in D3, I understand that there's an issue with it's the older young people who are going to be there with high adventure, about 300 of them, along with regular contingents. Is that going to affect the way we do chaplaincy in D3 and D4?
So here's what I said. We need to treat and it's called, some of it's called the older youth program, and frankly, it should be some of it's older youth, some of it's adult program participant, 18 to 20 year old. I mean, terminology together. No, you treat them as part of that subcamp. They're part of your subcamp participants in that subcamp. If they live there, they're under your purview as a subcamp chaplain. And we need to see if and we need to make ourselves available for chaplaincy services to anybody living in your subcamp. Okay, which would include obviously your subcamp staff, all units living there. In this case, there's a young adult, older youth program participants. And that's about all I know about how that's managed.
I guess we can handle it. You know what's over there. Yeah, I just thought if there's any need for additional assistance from the people.
There could be, and if there is additional assistance needed in any area, that's a call to us here at headquarters. That's why we're here to help. That's just the case. If we have a significant issue that might occur, and I didn't think about things. What if we have a significant lightning strike that injures a significant number of kids in Charlie 2? Well, guess what? We may need a little help over there. And so they're going to call, and we're going to get some help. Some of us also serve on a stress management team. So if you're on that, you kind of know who you are. So we may be calling. So that's kind of why we're so different. Right? They didn't know what organization we're put up. We serve everybody, and we serve in various types of situations. So this time we're located in contingent ops services, and the reason we did that is because most of our services are to the contingent. And that way, also make sure you have a staff tent, even if it is, from six, and a cot, and you got to eat in the dining hall, rather than making us all live over at Alpha Bravo and then have to scatter out of it. So that's one of the reasons we're organization set up that way. But you're right. That is a special program. I don't know a lot about that program, but obviously they even got a bunch of explorer units there, which is not traditional scattering. And so as y'all discover that in Delta 3, any oddities about that which might mean you need some help, let us know that. If we see it's going to be an ongoing thing, we may even say, okay, any of you subcamps who may have a fewer number of units who seem to be, got a lot of extra time on hand, do we have a volunteer chaplain who wants to relocate to a subcamp where we know we have got a lot of need? And to that point, there's an isolation subcamp over in A4.
B4 back end,
I'm sorry, B4?
back end.
Yeah, okay, back in B. And should we have to have a unit has to be quarantined in that? They're really gonna pick them up and move them there until whatever the medical issue was that told them to be isolated is cleared, and then they get to move back. We don't know if they'll need chaplains and services during that time, but just know that if we do, and we'll approach those the right way. Medical protection. Yes, that if we had a COVID outbreak.
There has always been an isolation area.
Yeah, we've had meningitis outbreaks, we've had in past areas, there's different things that have broken out. We've had a transmittable belly disease. That's where I know the gastrointestinal issues that popped up. We've isolated the unit. We don't then spread that all over January, and they're shut down from program during that time. Now they try to bring this program forward, things to do in the campsite, but we don't want them out spreading that stuff all over the place. And so we respond to that as best we can. And so just kind of know that this, I hate to say we're everybody's superhero, but we're, because all those now have added stress. And anytime there's added stress, it bears down on emotions. And to that point, Wednesday's move-in day, and it's gonna be a great day. The buses are gonna come pouring in here, and you and the rest of the sub-camp staff are gonna be helping those units and get their stuff to the right campsite. And by the way, it's not gonna be raining on Wednesday when they do that. Okay, so I can set all the gear out there in the rain, then try to get a couple 95 set up and get the gear underneath that, then get set up. Those unit leaders have been on the road traveling, visiting, doing everything, long days for the last 3 days, and now they've got to figure out how to get the stoves put together, 95s up, and all this rain. And guess who's going to be totally stressed out? Those unit leaders. And so you want to pay attention to what appears to be the moods and emotional status of those unit leaders coming off those buses. And sometimes you can tell it by the look on the face of they step off like that. I mean, I did it. And we respond to that. I'll be there to help. That's part of what we do. And so, yes, if we run into particular needs, don't let in your subcamp, base camp quarters, and be watching over, make sure you don't keep stressed out. And when subcamp that happens, let's get a call. Let's bring them help. That's all what we feel out of. Any questions about any of that?
I have one more. I hate to ask these questions, so I'd like to sort of hold the wisdom on this. I actually did read the chaplain's handbook again. And as I was going through there, I noticed something and I thought this was, because I'm a chaplain for my local healthcare. I saw something in there, I thought, I'll try that. It said, chaplains are to do their rounds with the community. I thought, it's not a good idea. So I tried it. And it did not work because commissioners have a conversation with the scoutmaster in each of the camping areas. When they're finished with that conversation, they move on to the next one. They don't appreciate anybody else sitting there listening to that. Then I've got to make my conversation with them about whatever needs they might have. And it may take a while. It may take 5, 10 more minutes. And by that time, the commissioner's gone. I know where he or she is. So it doesn't really make sense in a way to follow commissioners around. Can you
I
help
hear
me
you.
with that?
Let me give you a quick thought about that, and somebody may have a better solution. Maybe some of you never got at this, but sometimes, and some of it has to do with that commissioner and their perspective on it. But sometimes just walk along with him and hearing not just the frustrations that unit leader is having with his equipment and other issues, which the commissioner can see about, but from that you get a sense of how his emotional well-being. And you don't worry about talking with them right then, but okay, I can come back to this side later today, and let's talk to this guy and let's see if everything's okay. And so they just be walking with that commissioner who goes and does that stuff. And out of those 20 units you go see, or 10 units you go see for that commission, there may be only 1 or 2 that you play with, and all the back with that. And now Tim Baker's going to share with us his experience at the last Jamboree about the security guy.
I had a different experience. I doubled into it on day 3, 4 years ago with the safety guy, walking through, checking with all the scoutmasters, and he and I became fast friends. And kind of a little tag team conversation point for the morning. And it took me 2 hours every morning to walk our sub camp, but as a chaplain, it gave me report and in entree with leaders that ended up paying off in gold. Jamboree last time.
Good. So, so a lot of candy field on this commission of that commissioner or the character and the folks in the units.
About student year, walking through the nine. Take that opportunity to very often talk to the SPL, the captain, for the truth and get the youth perspective of what's going on.
And that's good when you're back there, but let me also add a tip to when they're doing those, nobody's there but one another. It's program. That's correct. They're all doing stuff. But that's the thing to watch for. Anytime you walk around, whether it's a security guy or with a commissioner, if you see a bunch of kids in that campsite at 10 o'clock in the morning, something's not right. Yep. Something is not right. And you want to make a note of that, come back and talk to those adults and say, hey. Well, they were late watching the dishes and I made a, so I didn't let them go do program this morning. Is there a different way we might approach that, Mr. Scout? Is there any other ideas about how we might want to approach it? Anyway, good thought. There are different techniques. The same technique is not going to work for everybody on every situation. But be open to do those different types of things. While we're saying walk around, let me suggest to you an experience. I may go ahead and suggest that two different things that has to do with Jim equipment. Tomorrow, the right day, because it's the day before the continued year and things kind of change that day. Hopefully, the whole character of this place change. Good. We'll have kids here doing stuff. It'll be a great time. But what an opportunity tomorrow to do two things. First off, I like to do this in the morning when it's kind of cool. But maybe as a sub camp chaplain 16, 2 or 3 of you. I don't know if we've ever done this before, but I had a great experience with this in a couple of days, the last 2 days. Walking the troop sites with your 2 or 3 other sub camp chaplains. Walk on the troop as a prayer walk. And pray for those units as they're still fighting and come together. Pray that when they get there, that they'll get set up good. Pray that you'll have a great experience together. Pray for the unit leaders for that. You know, and call out that truth moment to God in your prayer. And it could be a silent prayer as you walk together. Just walk through those sites. It could be before breakfast to get your appetite up ready for breakfast, or whatever. But take time. And again, your faith perspective background may be different mine, but mine comes in my own personal concept. I depend on prayer, and I use it, and others appreciate prayer. Find a time to, if you haven't already done, always see your sub camp and like you have a prayer with him. When you have a sub camp staff meeting, see it, talk to Chief Head, see if he'd be willing to have you open that meeting and pray. But particularly a time maybe to pray for him. He or she's under a lot of stress too. This morning, I had a personal prayer with Tico Perez, Chairman of Jamboree. He appreciated that because I know the stress that he's under and huge responsibility. And he appreciated the fact that he would like to take a minute and pray. He said, yeah, man, let's do that. And so I offered a prayer to him. And look for those types of opportunities. The other thing tomorrow is it's your one day before troops get here now to go visit the faith group exhibits over in the program area. Because you may have a chance to go back there later, but now's your chance to talk to the people there, both from your own faith group and for some other faith groups, so that when you later talk to chaplain's aides or scouts running around at the Jamboree, you say, hey, have you been over to this exhibit? Have you been to that area? Here's what they've got there. And so we know that the Jewish have a booth there. I found out for Rogers a lot of people go there, see who's there doing that and see what all they've got there. The Baptists have a booth, the Methodists have a booth, the Presbyterians have one, Episcopals have, who else? Catholics have a very nice display there. LDS has a nice tent right next to the 2 merit badges for family life and genealogy. So go learn tomorrow. That's your assignment for tomorrow. Find some time to go over there. Go there as a sub camp team and build your chaplain team in your sub camp. Go over there and visit those areas and see what all they've got to offer. I will tell you, and you'll need to know this, and it's supposed to be in the Jamboree guide when the scouts get here. They can earn a duty to God pass for the Jamboree. Part of it is doing the escape room experience, and that's where they actually get passed. But before that, if they had visited, I think 5 or 6 of those other spots and got some stuff checked off or whatever, and then they do the safe room, boom, when they finish that up, they get a pass, but you have to do all that stuff. And every scout can get that.
That's down to the duty God.
It is at the duty God exhibits here for the Jamboree.
I know that, but it's at the duty of God to get the patch and everything.
Yeah, it is
Part of
there.
our program.
It is there at the, again, the patch holders are actually the skate room
Yeah.
tent, but there's some other things they have to do in addition to that. And so when that's, you want, hopefully it's up on the Jamboree app, I know you pull that up and look at it. The point is, you need to go to that area and see that and know that's available to every scout. Every scout, yes, sir.
The LDS also have a very nice medallion for visiting their site and doing a couple of things related to what we're here for. So
So the LDS has a medallion, the Baptists have a V bracelet, some others have something else they'll do. Almost all these have some takeaway. But for the overall Jamboree program for duty to God, then there's that factor.
There's an electrical safety issue you have to address, you're gonna be using power on this. A few minutes.
That's right.
Let off, you know. right?
Thank you, all right. They've got turbo fan on in.
No, we turned it off so I can hear.
Yes, we can hear. But that's a great point about ministering those things and doing that. There was something else. Oh, also, I'm talking Jamboree app, and Alan knows the app now. There are, you can go here and look for religious service offerings. And right now, it only lists 4. We know more than that are scheduled. The cross button on the right hand side is actually for a scout to hit that and place it on his schedule to attend that. And a reminder pops up or something. But if you click on just the printing of the service itself, that word, it tells you where and at what time and on what day. So look at those things in the Jamboree app, particularly anything related to chaplaincy or religious stuff, and see exactly what all, and they are adding to it every day. But I already know that there are more services, in spite of Alan's wonderful attempts. There are more services listed on the calendar, particularly for this coming weekend, than you will find.
They are on the website calendar, not on the app yet.
We're working to get on that.
Communicore has the information.
Okay. Alan, I think about running out of my stuff.
Okay,
And
my turn.
turn it over to you, stuff.
Some of you haven't moved your hands in a while. You need to take a drink, please. Hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. And I know I've got at least one person online. The camera's about to go dead, so I may cut out sometime during the middle of this. All right, so some of the things I want to talk about is one, we've got a map that we put together of the Jamboree site, used Jamboree's map for that, with all of our contact information up here, phone numbers, and they are listed in the order in which it appears on the map. So Alpha's over here, Charlie's here, Delta's in this column, and then the management team's over in here. So we read it, yeah, right to left instead of left to right. I think our Hebrew brothers will appreciate that. Those maps have been given to the listening ear team to have one of each station. We've given them to the mental health group to give to each station. I've given one to each of the base camps. Actually, I'll give you a couple. If you would give one to your base camp chief would be good, as well as to your base camp medical office would be good. You have a pocket version that in the bag of goodies that I gave to the base camp chiefs. They've got a packet for each sub camp. And in that packet, you will find a individual copy of this little booklet that has all the phone numbers on the inside, the other chaplains, as well as the map on the back. That's old school because I know some of you have had technology issues. So that will take care of providing you that information that way. There is also a copy of the Duty to God emblems in there for each chaplain to be able to have one in that packet. Additionally, in that packet, there is also a letter for the Jamboree Unit Chaplain's Aid. It talks about what the role of the Chaplain's Aid is. Talks about the Jamboree daily devotions on the app, which those are already loaded on the app, as well as gives them the Summit Grace. And on the back side, it gives them the list of the worship services planned through the next week and next weekend. So that'll be one letter, one copy of the letter for each unit, not each site, because some sites have multiple units. So you'll be able to deliver those. Likewise, there is a scorecard for chaplain aides for you to be able to give one of those to each chaplain aide. Now you're gonna find, and this is the part that's gonna be kind of a mystery, so I've prepared enough copies so that even if there's 3 units sharing one site, if they each have a chaplain aide, you've got a copy available to give to each one. But in some cases, you may find they just have one chaplain's aide covering the whole combined unit. This fared better to be flexible, so that way you've got the materials available to do that. If they complete all the steps on this card, then they are eligible to receive a chaplain's aide patch, which looks just like our chaplain patch, except instead of saying chaplaincy team, it says Jamboree unit chaplain's aide. And I have those patches to be able to give to you to pass out once they're starting to complete those. Caution, just ask if there is a chaplain's aide. If the unit has not assigned one, don't worry about it. Just share the letter with the leader and let it go from there. If they do have one, there is a list in each of those packets of each of the troops so that you can record their names, so you have that information. We only have 420 patches. There are actually 555 units. So, you know, there's a point where we run out of patches if all of the kids actually do everything. So that's why don't go recruiting chaplain's aides if they've got them. And my view of that theologically is, if it's that important to the unit and that important to one of the scouts in that unit, there will be a chaplain's aide. Those are the ones we want serving as chaplain's aides, not somebody who's simply taking position because they can earn a patch. Let's see. Yeah, the troop list is in the order of site numbers. And so you'll be able to just go by the site number. Again, remember that it's a 4-digit code on the unit number. If it starts with a 3, it's a Charlie unit. If it starts with 4, it's a Delta unit. The second number tells you which subcamp 1 through 4 it is. And then the last 2 tell you what site number within that subcamp. So anytime you're looking at the scout or a leader, as soon as you see their unit number, you roughly know where they belong physically on the property. Communications. There are a few of you who have not gotten onto the team reach app that I just sent out over the weekend. That's the one that we can do the text-based communications the easiest through at this point. We are not going to do the rocket chat process. Last time I checked, there was about 30 signed on, so we have a few more of you to sign on. Please do get signed on. Through that, you can do direct messaging. We've also got our calendar of all of our chaplain-related events loaded on there already. We can also do group messaging as well, and so it's important for you to do that. Another app that you've been hearing about over and over again, but I'll touch on it one more time, is the Jamboree app itself. Make sure you do have that one loaded. If you've tried the Power app that I set up and got it work, great, use it. If you haven't, don't worry about it. That's why I gave you a print copy at this point. I'm not looking to make your life more complicated. Thank you for those who have played with me on this game and this adventure of technology. Cell phones, of course, we've got to all make sure we're keeping them charged up because they are our primary vehicle of communication. And once this is all done, I've been running Zoom for the last few hours, so I'll have to get mine going. The other item that is on my checklist here, I mentioned the worship schedule and locations. There's nobody doing a 6:30 a.m. service at Chat and Chew, is there?
Yeah, well, that was.
No, I know about Delta Pavilion, and I know about Alpha Pavilion. Yeah. Is it a Delta Pavilion or is it Chat and Chew?
Right next, the chat, the pavilion.
But you are using the pavilion.
Yeah.
Okay, there was communications issue through the management team that I need to straighten out, so thank you. I just wanted to make sure that we're on the same page.
Where is the Chaplain located?
It is.
You won't have time to order.
Yeah. It is right next to the.
Okay, but now for first timers, all right, first timers.
Yeah.
Chat and Chew is located in the staff camp, JST camp, which is Alpha Bravo. And it is where you can upgrade your dining experience. All you have to do is reach in your pocket and pull out money, and they have options there for you. If you're really missing a ribeye steak or a grilled salmon plate or something, you find your transport. Y'all make a trip over. Go encourage the chaplaincy team over at Alpha Bravo and make a trip over there. And yes, it is located right next to the Alpha Bravo Pavilion. I call it Pole Barn. But yeah, you go in there, you pay extra for doing a little for extra meals in there.
Another way of doing that is the A tower.
You're right. In that case, the pavilion is right by the A tower, and Chattahoochee right next to the A tower, right? And every base camp, of course, has one of those towers. But in this case, it's the A tower, not the B tower over there. It is at the A tower.
And of course, as you heard, steaks, also ice cream for those that are interested in that. So yeah, there's some good options there.
With ice cream.
Yes,
Cobbler with ice cream.
yes. So some good options there. As Ted mentioned, I can run off a few things for you. When he says not reams, well, I've got about 4 reams of paper. So when that runs out, that's it. But so yeah, and of course, I'm just printing on a little desktop printer, so that'll take time. So don't bring anything too expensive. But if you do need something run off, if you're using a liturgy, you need run off or something like that, you can send it to me by email, and I can go ahead and print it down. That's not a problem at all. As you heard Ted say, Ted doesn't plan on being around the office space much. Probably Patrick and I will kind of split that up, but there may be times in which we aren't there. So, you know, it's a hike to get up here. So don't come without a check-in to see if one of us are going to be there first. Otherwise, we can make a trip down and see one of you. That's always a possibility too.
Yeah, if you need us to print some out and bring it to you, let us know that.
Yeah.
We'll do that. Don't worry.
Any other questions that you might have for us?
Ellen, do we have any summary of activities that the chaplains will give before we leave? My experience is that we often ask to get something, and we do it at the end, and we forget all the things we do. And so I'm encouraging my chaplains daily to give a tally of the major activities they're participating in. And my hunch is that the chaplaincy corps can use that information.
Yeah.
So if we're going to do it, we all need to do it and remember it and do it daily until we can get that work.
That is a great point, and frankly, not something that I've given adequate attention to so far. But I think it does. If you think about it, if you're in mind out of role at the next Jamboree, one of you probably will be. Is that okay? What would it be good to know? Would it be good to know how many referrals we got for listening year? Would it be good to know how many issues we ran into out in the visiting with units and what types of issues? How many were youth issues? How many were adult issues? How many were conflict resolution issues versus homesickness versus where we had to make notifications about regretful things that have happened at home? Those types of things. And so that's a great point. And let's plan that by the time units get here, we will make a decision about that. And so we'll probably try to get with our base camp coordinators collectively and make a decision on that. And y'all be thinking about that, about what we could use to capture that. We don't want to overburden you with paperwork, but and for instance, I want to know one of the things to watch for is we had this is true. I wouldn't tell you a lie anyway. But I tried to recruit a chaplain, a great chaplain. I've served with him in the past. He would have been a wonderful Jamboree chaplain. He would not agree to come work this time because he did not have enough to do last time. And that's because we had not properly trained him place for place he could reach out to find needs. I'm convinced there were adequate needs there, but we had not trained him to reach out. So yeah, if you find yourself not busy, now make it call you're going to break or something. That's wonderful. There might still be an opportunity. We mentioned those pavilions we've got, and we've already got in Delta. We've got a campus that's set up 6:30 in the morning. Check around. Maybe y'all want to get together. I mean, let's face it. We got a few outliers, but we have a lot of Protestants in the room. is there an opportunity in one or more of our base camps to offer a Protestant service every morning?
But many of the chaplains, the new ones, do not understand that we're trying to fit into an already programmed schedule. And that has difficulties relative to where you can do a service, how many might attend, you might offer it. And if it's at the wrong time, I'm sorry, you'll be there by yourself. The other issue is also promotion of it. And so it's something that cannot be done and say, tonight, and try to get that word out. You gotta have a little time.
Gotta have a little time, but I will give you an example though of where, when I was starting last time, we had not adequately planned, didn't have it on the schedule, a Catholic mass, and it was another 6:30 in the morning or something like that. But we did try to get the word out, we had it on the list, we mentioned it. By the way, once the units get here, there'll be a units, leaders meeting that probably Wednesday night. And ask the subcamp chief for 2 minutes, so hey, the chaplains are here, you have emotional needs, other needs in your units, call on us. And by the way, every morning or whatever time we'll have these type of services later. The point is, yes, a Southern Baptist served as the reader for a Catholic mass for the first 2 days that it was being offered in that base camp. Because we didn't have anybody else to do it, and there were only 1 or 2 folks that were coming. And that's okay. There's a wonderful Monsignor who was offering that mass, and he trained me how to do it. In 2 minutes, he trained me how to be a reader. And I did a reader. But by the 3rd day, we were up to 6 people. By the 4th, he had 8 people, 10, 12. He no longer needed me as a reader. But it worked